Esta gente, aquí estamos en este vídeo para el canal de Stanley Parable, un Deluxe, ¿vale? El primer episodio de la serie, miniserie, porque va a ser en teoría una serie muy cortita. Es un juego de unas dos horas aproximadamente por ahí. Juego que surgió como un mod de Half-Life 2, pero que al final con el tiempo se hizo más popular cada vez y se convirtió en un juego aparte. Intuyo que no tengo que jugar a Half-Life 2 para pillar cosas y para pasar bien con este juego, porque nunca he jugado a Half-Life ninguno de los dos. Así que nada, espero que sea un juego muy guapo. Dicen que es una fumada y que rompe la cuarta pared y todo el rollo. Así que vamos a darle a inicio partida, sin más dilación. He jugado antes un rato para que vaya todo en orden, ¿de acuerdo?
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Vamos a ver qué ocurre, ¿eh?
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-lifting, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Tengo control, nena. Voy a jugar con teclado de ratón, porque por algún motivo no deja jugar comando, ¿eh?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Vale. A sala de reuniones, de puta madre. Por aquí. Me gusta mucho el rollo, en plan oficinista.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
¿Tú lo viste? Pues será así. Tío, ¿ves esto de aquí abajo? Este botón de aquí abajo. Al lado de mi nombre, ahí. Al lado de la campanita, ahí. Dale ahí, suscríbete, ¿vale? Para suscribirte, activa la campanita. Y cada vez que subo vídeo te llega un mensajito con... Y yo, también subo vídeo, no sé qué, ¿vale? Tú sabes. Un vídeo. Vale, creo que puedo como llevarle la contraria al pavo y hacer.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Por acá. ¿Y si bajo?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Tío, no subió. Vale, un coche arrancado.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
What?
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
He vuelto. No es un sueño, Stanley, máquina.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss, I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
No, rojo. What? Vale. Hostia, qué guapo,
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
¿Cómo me ahora?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
What? Then is never. Joder, tío. O sea, ese es uno de los finales, ¿no? Digo yo. Vale.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Y todo porque
What could
en
it
vez de ir
mean?
a ver al jefe,
Stanley
iba a ver
decided to
las
go to the
tareas,
meeting room. Perhaps he had
Todo
simply
de
missed a
huevos, a
memo.
los manos. Vale. Pues nada, ahora sí voy a subir para la escalera, no me jodas.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vaya paranoia, tú. Me gusta. Vale, sala de reuniones.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Al boss.
Feeling a wave of
Big boss.
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's
Arriba,
office.
ahora.
Coming to a
Arriba.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
Oh, no.
office.
Si abajo cambia el diálogo, no. Sí. No, tío, vamos para arriba, coño. Vamos para arriba, que no quiero más fumadas de bucle y acabar muerto en el suelo. Vale. Big Boss. Igual, ¿estás aquí?
Stepping into his manager's
Okay,
office,
yeah.
Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked,
Código.
unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
Ocho.
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Vale. Pasillo ultra secreto y oscuro. Me gusta. En una oficina. Un poco de control ahora mismo, Bajamos. Loading. ¿Ves? Ahora pone todo el rato loading.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
A ver. Pero este juego, en plan.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Uy. Escape, por aquí. ¿Por qué no?
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Ya. De momento no. Luego, sí, eso,
But
sí.
of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for.
Vale, ¿aquí qué?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold?
What?
Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Coño, bueno. Vale. Este es el cuarto del Deluxe para hacer los directillos. Cámara.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers, the lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Vale. O sea, toda esta gente son la peña que trabaja aquí, ¿no? Vale. ¿Por qué hay unos que son como barra roja? El 28. Despedido. Ya funciona. Despedido. Y si ya despedido, ¿por qué sigue contando? ¿Qué coño? Para aquí. Muy bien. Ascensor.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
¿Alex, es tu culpa?
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Vale, como que la empresa está con toda mi vida
But here
entera,
was the
¿no?
proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
System power. Off. Vale. ¿Este otro final?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
¿Qué es este juego, tío?
Yes. He had won.
What?
He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away.
¿Qué hasta yo?
And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Vale. ¿Y qué? Dead is never. Dead is never. Dead is never. Ok, tú. Vale, ese era otro final posible. Ya van dos, Madre mía. Que son hipercortos los finales. Las aventuras de
All of his co-workers were gone.
Vale.
What could it mean?
Pues nada.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed
En
a
vez de este juego
memo.
te pinta que no tiene un final, digamos, canon. Y tienes que jugar simplemente hasta aburrirte de finales. ¿No? O sea, a lo mejor tiene como 20 finales y vas jugando y vas sacando finales, digamos.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Hello?
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
A izquierda, bueno, voy a esto, tonto. ¿Aló?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years
Soy rebelde,
ago.
máquina, soy rebelde. ¿Y esas planas? ¿Esas planas qué son, tío? No puedo hacer nada con ellas. Por ahí. ¿Aló? Aviso. No saltar desde el cargo cuando está en movimiento. No me digas. ¿Y si me tiro de aquí? ¿Eso es exterior también? ¿Esa luz? Vale, ¿puedo bajar a lo loco? ¿Me puedo tirar de aquí?
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Vale, otro final posible. Joder. El juego de mil finales, tú. Madre mía.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Porque no vaya fumada de juego.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
No voy a izquierda, me sube la polla. Voy por aquí.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Penalización por caerme del cargo, 1000 pavos. Penalización por saltar del cargo, 50 pavos. Joder.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
¿Qué ha dicho de ella? ¿Está esperando? ¿Quién es ella? ¿Y por qué eso está hiper negro? Más para adentro.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can
¿Cariño?
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
¿Qué coño? Joder,
gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Buen día, empleado. ¿Cómo?
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Mi pago alquiler. Pero mínimo, ¿eh? Vale,
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either.
Está contando lo que he hecho.
Choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Pero ¿qué es esto, yo? Pues pide para preparar la cena.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
¿Qué? Era para contar una historia a tus hijos.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Pero para decir a tu esposa que la ama. Cariño, te amo.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
¿Qué es esto, tío? Viene para irte a dormir.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Viene para estar en el trabajo por la mañana. Va en el pulso. Si todo dice. Pero no ocurre nada, ¿eh? Máquina. Narrador. No pulso y no ocurre nada, ¿eh? Ah, espera.
You see? Can he just not hear me?
Vale,
How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
No cuestionarte nada. Esclavo.
I suppose I can't. Not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again. Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Otro final. Madre mía, tú. ¿Qué es esto? Vale, otra vuelta aquí. Madre mía, es un bucle eso.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Es un bucle.
What could it mean?
Es el día de
Stanley
la mota,
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
De llegar al final es raro, tío. Cada vez más raro, tío. ¿Qué cojones este juego, tío?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vale. No sé qué hacer, tío.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Tío, es que es igual que antes. O sea, el juego va de jugar, digamos. Llegar al final, el juego se reinicia y
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began while Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy. So he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
Tío, parece música porno, tú. Eso se ve experiencia.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Voy a tirar por donde pone escape ahora. Si es que está otra vez y no hay una polla enorme en el medio o algo. Bueno, vale. Este juego me espero ya cualquier cosa. Vale, lo adding. ¿Aló? Voy a tirar por...
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
¿Esto es un bucle? ¿Es infinito el pasillo este? Estoy un poco cagado ahora mismo, la verdad. Estoy un poco cagadito. Porque este humo me da una espina,
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Queda infinito este pasillo. Empezando a rollo, para pegar. Vale. Cojones. Estoy más cagado ahora mismo, tío. Para adentro. Con dos cojones. ¿Coño? Vale.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Tío, te juro que me está dando mal rollo, Te juro que me está dando mal rollo. Está bien parado,
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
What? What? Pintura de naturaleza. ¿Qué es este juego, tío? Computadora de Stanley. Esto es como un museo, tío. Diagrama de oficina. Oh, uy, perdón, sorry. Este plano muestra la oficina de comienzo del juego. El camino de la oficina de Stanley hasta la puerta fue la primera parte del juego que se construyó. A lo largo del desarrollo se agregaron y se modificaron distintas secciones, pero el diagrama fundamental es casi idéntico a la primera versión. Ok. Coño. Pasillo. El ritmo de la sección inicial era crucial para el juego. El pasillo se movió y se modificó para que los jugadores llegaran a la otra puerta en un buen tiempo. Las dos puertas. El escenario de las puertas abiertas fue la primera pieza concreta de diseño de Stanley Parable. Una vez que se creó esa habitación, el resto del juego surgió como una extensión, una exploración de la contradicción que se planteaba aquí. Vale. Archivadores. O sea, esto es un museo, tío. Esto es un museo del juego. En plan, desarrollo. Guión y diseño. David Radeon y William Pogue. Desarrollo, Crows. Dirección de arte, Dominic Johan. Diseño de sonido. ¡Ey! ¡Eh! ¿Kevin MacLeod? What the fuck? ¿En serio ese tío estaba aquí metido? Ese tío es el que hizo la música sin copyright de YouTube. En plan, Investigation, Monkey, no sé qué. La de... Turo. Turo. Tara. Esa es suya, tío. Y la de... ¿Cómo se llama, tío? Con el ritmo, tío. Ay, tío. Pum. Papi. Es que, tío, es que soy malísimo, bro, para hacer rimas, pero... Ese tío, te lo juro, Qué MacLeod. Qué grande, tío. Mira, vos. Tipo, no tenía ni puta idea, Obviamente, si este juego no he jugado nunca. Basado en la obra del equipo de Stanley Parable de 2013. Vale. O sea, por eso ponía que esto era Escape. Porque es en plan museo raro. Vale. Estas son como versiones alternativas de la oficina. Del jefe, digo. El reloj de la oficina. Final de la libertad. Esta fue la primera versión de final de la libertad. En la versión alfa del juego. Vale, ese es el que sacaba antes, digo. Intuyo. ¿Vale? Que esto es guapo. Pero puedo volver a lo de antes, a la oficina. Habitación de la cuenta regresiva. ¿Cómo cuenta regresiva? Una versión inicial de la habitación de la cuenta regresiva. Vale, eso es el final que no he sacado todavía. Final Zen. En esta captura se muestra una versión inicial del final conocido como Final Zen, que luego se descartó y se combinó con otra parte del juego. Creo que aquí todavía no estaba, o sí estaba. Palanca de Final Zen. No está entonces. Cuando el jugador accionaba las palancas, el narrador describía que el jugador había accionado. Vale, ahora funciona. El juego está en pausa ahora. Final del menú. ¿Cómo el final del menú? Durante mucho tiempo tuvimos un final que solo terminaba cuando el jugador realizaba desde el menú de escape. Por desgracia, muy pocas personas se dieron cuenta de que eso era lo que había que hacer, lo cual fue frustrante para todo el mundo. Algo así. ¿Empezar de cero? LOL, tío. Vale, aquí he vuelto, tú.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
De este juego, porque un poco fumada. En plan, no tiene historia, digamos, lineal, ¿sabes? Es simplemente
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Y busca otro final distinto, ¿sabes? Un poco fumada, la verdad.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
A ver, basta. Y voy a darle a esta vez.
commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going. What all this means, I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? One solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first. So you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. Just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life, from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever up.
Y morí. Vale, ¿ahora qué? Ya 19, otra vez. Pues nada, he regresado, ok. Okay,
all of his co-workers were gone.
¿Qué es esto?
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to
¿Qué
the
es esto,
meeting
tío?
room.
Es ahí,
Perhaps he
alguna
had simply
bucle
missed a
timer.
memo.
Fuck. El juego no dura 2 horas, dura 20
When
años.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Izquierda, otra vez. Pero tío, es igual todo que antes. Es igual todo que antes, tío. ¿Qué coño? No quiero ir por aquí. Quiero ir para la derecha. Voy a iniciar la partida, creo. Empezar a cero. Voy a tirar por la derecha ahora. Y me suena por allá.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Cállate un mes, tío. Pesado. Cállate un mes. Dime cómo puedo salir de aquí, coño. Dime cómo puedo salir de este bucle. Vale, por aquí he ido.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it about this room that called so deeply and so personally to Stanley? Its grace? Its subtle charm? No. Stanley knew, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Voy a hacer caso a todo lo que diga, tú. A todo lo que diga. Hey, what the fuck?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer.
Es que esto va a llevar al mío final de antes, a la sala de control.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Vale, voy a la sala de las puertas.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left. Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
Tío, es que ya no sé si esto lo he hecho antes o no.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see, we went down right, left, down, left, right... Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Hey, what the fuck?
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Mañana voy a jugar.
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere, or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Serio, vamos aquí. Vale. Mira, esta lleva al mismo sitio. Esto acá. Vale. Por aquí. Un poquito, sí, un poquito de smoking. Le han pegado fuerte, además. Le han pegado fuerte al smoking.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Vale, se ve solo. O sea, el tío que inicia todo.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Me mola mucho. Vale. Hey, ya me puerta. ¿Qué coño?
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Otra dirección. Pues si he ido recto. Por aquí. Por aquí. ¿No?
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes.
What?
No, wait. Never mind. What? Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Okay.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest. I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct?
No sé.
Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay? I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart. All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable adventure line. Just follow the line. How simple is that? You see, the line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Cuenta de departamento, vacío personales, y el campo alto, análisis de mercado.
Cut the music, go back and look at that fern.
¿Cómo ha hecho? ¿Qué ha hecho? ¿Dice? ¿El hecho? What the fuck? Ah, esto.
Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
What? Yo es un hecho no me corriente, máquina. No joder. Vale, chupa adelante, máquina. Un saludo.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
What? Acabo de volver sobre el paso, ¿Cojones? Por aquí. ¿Qué cojones?
No, not again, Line. How could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Otra vez, restart. Madre mía, con el restart, cojones.
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Me parece, vamos, cojonudamente guay.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything.
Hey,
what do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Hey, what? ¿Cojones? O sea, si voy por aquí, ¿tiene salida? Pero si voy para atrás, tampoco hay salida, what the fuck. ¿Qué salida ahora? What the fuck? ¿Qué cojones? LOL. En plan, oh my god, en plan LOL. Vale, he vuelto aquí. ¿Qué cojones, tío? Parece un poco las Barroom ahora mismo, Es un poco las Barroom y eso me da un poco más espina. Vale, ¿me pongo aquí solamente la vuelta o qué? Vale, esto es diferente, creo. ¿O no?
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
No hagas caso y no da bien. Si no la sigo. A ver, pero si va por el techo es complicado seguirla.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute.
What?
Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Llevaban las dos al mismo sitio, ok.
Oh, hold up, what's this?
Vale. Al final
the confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game 8 times?
No.
That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? Okay. My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped?
What?
Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen?
What?
So, okay.
Hey, ¿es así?
I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination, so I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Coño. ¿Qué cojones? Susto ya, coño. Vale, he vuelto aquí, tío. Mira, mañana sigo, tío. Mañana sigo porque estoy hasta... Oh, me ha explotado la cabeza, te lo juro. Pues nada, espero que os haya gustado. Dale like. Si os gusta, mañana haré otro vídeo de este juego. A ver si consigo llegar al final, digamos, real. Y nada,